We're currently on the Western Seaboard on the Blaauwberg beachfront at the Atlantic Surf Shop and Cafe. Coffee Date is about speaking to our communities. So we speak about the communities of Blaauwberg, Melkbos, Sunningdale, Tableview, Dunoon, West Beach. We have here with us Councillor for Ward 113, Joy Solomon, as well as Mandy Da Matta. She's with the Tableview Residents Association. She's a chairperson of that body, as well as David Harris, Tableview CPF Chairperson. Councillor Joy Solomon, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. I am a constituent of yours in Ward 113, so I can pose some of my municipal questions, but I open it up rather to our listeners. But it is a very dynamic neighborhood that we call home here, this part of the world. We have expansion, we have developments popping up, we have the issues of socioeconomic ills in this part. But how have you seen your role here and the growth of the Tableview, Parkland, Sunningdale, Blaauwberg community in the last few years?
All I can say is wow. Wow. In 2011, when I first became a councillor, prior to that, my first comment was the densification without adequate infrastructure. Because already our roads were choked, our pipes were popping, the infrastructure was not what it should be, and yet we carried on to densify and densify. Mandy Da Matta will agree with me. We were on the Ratepayers, etc. together, and we tried to bring reason. But of course the city needs money to do the infrastructure, so the development paid the bills. But finally we have a budget this year which speaks to all of these issues, with a massive amount in it set aside for infrastructure.
What has been a concern has been as you say, the explosion of development. The mayor has said this. They acknowledge that over the last administration, the infrastructure has not been the number one concern. But we are a growing city, and a city which geographically, spatially, can only move northwards on this northern corridor of Blaauwberg, Tableview, Parkland, Sunningdale, and it will become Sunningdale North. Eventually, there will be no gap between this part of the world and Atlantis. I think it's the fastest growing suburban residence space in South Africa at the moment.
Well, already Sunningdale 3 has reached the base of Blaauwberg Hill, which is a nature reserve. So Sunningdale can go no further. But there are plans eventually afoot there. I've seen blueprints for a university in the vicinity of the borders, which will link us to Atlantis, and a resuscitation of the train line to make it not only a goods line but a passenger line as well. But that seems to be in the far distant future now.
That is probably the most pressing concerns amongst other pressing concerns. Transport along this corridor. I became a resident of this area and only afterwards realized, gosh, there's only two ways out of this area. R27 or the N7
and the My City.
And the My City, of course, which my family does utilize. But for people who decide to take their vehicles, we want to discourage them and encourage public transport. A train line along this northern corridor could help alleviate that. You say it's in the distant future, but it is in a blueprint stage.
Well, there is actually a line. If you are familiar with further down Blaauwberg Road, in the area called Zwezwe, it actually has been colonized all the way along the railway line, so the train cannot pass through because the shacks are too close. But that was the goods line to Atlantis, which is now completely obliterated because people are living on the line. Plus, the bridge is structurally a little bit questionable because it's been undermined underneath. There are shacks underneath the railway bridge, which is, of course, very dangerous. So for now, there is no line to the north. But to resuscitate that, hopefully once the city takes over the train lines completely, we will be able to do that, and we could offer an alternative.
Mandy Da Matta is the chairperson of the Tableview Ratepayers Association, a community that, like any growing community around Cape Town, having its issues of crime, having its issues of trying to deal with densification, issues around how to balance residential life versus business activity. How have you found this part of the city in terms of all its challenges that it faces, but also its tremendous potential? I see a community here of immense diversity of people, backgrounds, even nationalities living in. I think that is largely a positive of this community.
I see it as a positive because it provides us with many different approaches due to the cultural influences that we have, the blended cultural influences, and the fact that we can find answers to our challenges. I talk of the term active citizenry. We need our growing population that's out there to become part of our social fabric, our social structure. We see it in the way that our neighborhood watches have built up a strong security dynamic, if you want to call it that, working alongside your CPF, working alongside your other organizations in the area, and to try and keep the security aspects under eyes and ears, most importantly, and have assisted SAPs and have assisted law enforcement in carrying out of their duties, not taking it over, but assisting them. So if we can find a way that we as a growing community, a young community, family-orientated community, if we can find solutions to our social ills, because I'm sure that none of us want to see small children in the middle of the road where the buses are traveling, begging for food and begging for money, along with a custodian that's accompanying them, because we're not teaching those children anything. So that's one of my big ills.
You and I have spoken about what I call our housing distressed neighbors. Other people will say homeless people. I see it as not an external part of our community, but people who are experiencing homelessness are part of our community. There is this, and I accept there's the consideration with people equating that to issues around safety, equating that to issues around rubbish collectors and the unsightly state that is, and I would accept that is often left, but it is creating this community that is active in citizenry, but also I believe is caring, and I see slivers of that with what the overall community and the representatives of the community is doing.
We've got organizations such as TLC that go out of their way to make sure that there's an education system for the young children and making sure that they get some form of fundamental education. Plus, there's a feeding scheme, but it's done conscientiously. It's done practically. It's not keeping people on the streets. It's there to assist people to, if they are in a situation, that they will accept the help. My concern is where you have people that have homes, such as in Atlantis, but that are infiltrating the area just to do mischievous, get up to mischief, and find that they refuse the help, but then they're not contributing to the society. I've got this pipe dream. Please excuse me for sharing it with your listeners this morning, but I always believe in solutions, and I'm always outside the box. But why are our disenfranchised homed people not cleaning and assisting the society on a daily basis? They're not employed. But if we can create like a feeding scheme structured correctly for all the bags of refuse that they're collecting off our beaches, because what's a current ill? Our beaches are infiltrated with plastic, with mess, with everything. So if we can find a way that we integrate, please give me your word for the
housing distressed, or people who are experiencing homelessness.
Thank you. But sleeping on the street is not fun. And if they could be then given a place of safety, just to be dignified and healthy, would be a lovely thing to achieve. Absolutely
appreciate that perspective. But David Harris, let me get to you. He's the chairperson of the Table View CPF. On having people feel part of the community, I believe that if people are made to feel part of the community, and just this morning it's bin collection day. I put my trash out last night, and I was distressed when there was some things lying around my bin this morning, and I appreciate that. But and I'm not trying to virtue signal here, but I've taken the aspect of, when I see someone, I greet them and I say hello, and you're absolutely fine. I know it's tough seeking and trying to eke out something. If we're talking what Mandy says about people taking ownership in their community, and whether you are fortunate to live in a house and be a comfortable resident, or whether you are roughing it, isn't about making people feel that they are part of this community and not seen as outsiders coming in, David?
You're quite right. As the CPF, we are responsible to all of the community, not just the Ritchie West Beach, but the less fortunate in Swesway and other informal areas. And we really want them to be included in the community table view. We've taken responsibility. We have, with SAPS, consulted with the leadership in the informal areas. Remember that we only had one informal area 3 years ago. We've now got 6. And there is a massive increase in crime in those locations, in the areas of that. But with SAPS, we've consulted, we continuously consult with the leadership of the informal areas, and to that end, and at their request, we have helped them to form a neighbourhood watch. And what is so exciting is that they've actually formed their own. We've had an AGM. They've formed their own exco, and we have 117 applications because they are fed up with crime. They are fed up with crime in the area as much as anybody else in the area. So it is our responsibility to support them in their endeavours here, and it's very exciting.
Rosemary's asking, with the increased number of residences in particularly the Sunningdale area, she asks, is there plans for a public high school? I know that there are plenty of private learning institutions that are opening up around this area, but is there any plans for the Western Cape Education Department to open up a public high school in areas that is extending northwards here in this corridor?
Good morning, Rosemary. We do have one high school, which is a public high school, Bloberg Rand High, which is on the corner of the R27 and Bloberg Road. There is one additional site at the top of Circle Road, which is a school in bud, shall we say. It's got, I think, grade 8, grade 9 and grade 10. They're just starting with a few classes in each. That one is expanding rapidly, so that is also a public school.
A message from a resident who uses Parklands Main Road. Please ask why there are no traffic lights on Parklands Main Road, especially at the crossing of ShopRite at PNA. I'm familiar with the area. I know that Parklands Main Road divides 2 ward areas. Outgoing Councillor Nikki Rieder has already left her position, so it's left to you to answer that question. Traffic lights in Parklands Main Road.
I think the idea of traffic lights in Parklands Main would impede the traffic flow because there's a huge number of people that need to exit on Parklands Main. And I must say, whenever I've been down Parklands Main, the traffic is courteous. They do allow stop and go, and it actually moves quite well without traffic lights. I think if we put traffic lights, it might very well impede. But if you like, I can raise that question with our traffic chief, Arno Schronen, and get his opinion.
David, a question to you, and this is just something that neighbours, friends who live in this particular area, and I'm sorry I've become now an old suburbanite. I wouldn't have minded a lekker huisdraw in my days gone by, but there has been concern of businesses operating from residential homes, businesses that are either converted into entertainment facilities, if they are bed and breakfasts, whatever happens there, but it's run as businesses in residential areas, and people I've spoken to in this particular area saying there's a little bit of a concern from a business and licensing and zoning perspective.
Well, actually, that is a question for the council as much as it is for me, because of the licensing aspect. But
you're the one who has to do patrols on a Friday.
Yeah, no, that's right. But we are aware of certain residents where they're called party houses, if you like. And they are attended to. We currently have one major one, which I won't tell you where it is, that we are sorting out. But we are aware of them, and they are attended to. Let me just tell you that.
Oh, there's a part of me that says, let the young entrepreneurial spirit run free. There's small businesses, and, they're doing it for themselves. Mandy, you nodding, you shaking your head furiously.
Definitely not. Please, let's save the youth from themselves in this instance. Let them be entrepreneurial in finding other solutions, how to quicken load shedding ending.
Councillor,
more practical.
please ask the councillor. We, the residents of Aram Road and surrounding areas, desperately need the municipal area which has the water tower, which is a heritage site, to be enclosed with a fence and made into a dog park. This area is used constantly by vagrants.
I'm well aware of that. I'm on the Aram Road chat group, and I'm aware that the community have gotten together and cleared all the vegetation, so the place is open. There's now no place for the vagrants to set up camp. I have applied for a fence. My ward allocation budget, unfortunately, is allocated a year ahead, so I cannot do it this year, but we'll try and do it next year.
We spoke to Fatima earlier, who has a project with the Helping Hands NGO to feed people who are seeking casual labor. Des in Tableview has a little bit of a different perspective. Don't necessarily agree with everything, but it's his perspective. Des says we need a designated area for people looking for jobs to sit. The corner of South and Study is ridiculous sometimes. Over 20 people eating, weeing in public. That's from Des. Councillor?
When I first became a councillor, my idea was to take the job seekers away from the side of the road, create a job seekers space at the taxi rank in a container where we could, for example, if you were a carpenter or a painter, we could have your name, your address, where you've worked, a couple of references, and people could come to the container and say, we need a painter, we need a plumber, we need a whatever. And we could say, we've got Peter, Joe, Michael, James, take your pick. These are they, and here are their references. But unfortunately, the people of Tableview are lazy. They would prefer to go to the corner of Wooden Merlot or to the Boy de Goede Circle and go and collect someone whom they don't know. And I've discussed this with the CPF chairperson, and I've mooted it a couple of times, that we actually start a job seekers database and we have them at the taxi rank where people do arrive, and it's easy to access, easy to egress from the taxi rank as well, and at least you have an idea of who you are taking into your home. It's not just somebody strange off the street. This person has references and has proof of work.
Mandy, you also shaking your head?
I agree with Councillor Joy in this regard, and add to that a local magistrates court, because I think that the courts are so you're burdened in town, and the next one is Atlantis. We've grown so big.
We need the facilities,
we need
the
the facility,
facilities.
and we need another clinic and hospital, public hospital.
Okay. Kumaran from Tableview. I know you've been waiting for quite some time. Kumaran, good morning.
Can you hear me?
We're listening. Yes.
I'm a resident in Parklands, and the house next to me is being used as a home school. Now, it's not a daycare. It's a home school with about 20 to 30 pupils. These are teens and preteens. And every morning I can hear the prayers and their songs and their practice and what have you. I'd just like to know if this is allowed. I'm not a vindictive neighbor because, she's providing the educational service to the kids, but is this allowed?
I'm sure you enjoy and you love the giggling. Who doesn't love the giggling and laughter of small children? Kumaran.
Okay, but my daughter sleeps right next door.
I'm kidding. I understand your concern, but let's talk to Councillor Solomon. Kumaran, I don't know if you heard, ask about the running of schools, daycares from private homes. I know these places should be registered with the Department of Social Development if they are foundation phase learning facilities, ECDs. Your thoughts, Councillor?
Exactly. The city has a work from home policy in which you can use up to 20% of your residence to generate an income. But if you are doing something that impacts negatively on the neighbours, you do, particularly something as important as a school, you need to be registered with the education department, and you do need a license. So if they have more than 5 children, you can have a total of 6 children on the premises, including your own, without a license. More than that, you definitely need a license.
Unfortunately, that's all we have time for. Councillor Joy Solomon. You could contact the councillor, joy.solomon@capetown.gov.za. David Harris, who's the Tableview CPF chairperson, also Mandy Da Matta. Really appreciate your time.